everybody, welcome to the Red Devil Experience. My name is Eric. Hope everybody is doing well. We got the latest Manchester United news. Could Kobbie Mainoo and Joshua Zirkzee be leaving Manchester United in January? We're going to talk about that. There is some news. There seems to be some unhappiness between them two about their game time that they are receiving right now, and it is in the balance of, I guess, to see from now until then if it increases and how happy they are going to be. Obviously, Kobbie wants to play for England. There's a World Cup. He's not going to be able to do that if he continues playing the amount of minutes that he's playing. I would say that, there's a good amount of time from now until January for that to change. We'll see how it goes, but we'll get into that discussion. There's also a couple other things that we need to talk about in terms of the squad. Apparently, the players are 100% behind Ruben Amorim. Ineos are still 100% behind Ruben Amorim. And couple other miscellaneous stuff. So, there's actually quite a lot we're going to talk about. Schmeichel talking about lemons as well. So yeah, we're gonna get into a bunch of different stuff today. We're gonna jump around, but we're gonna cover everything. So please make sure you smash the like button because it helps the channel grow, and we greatly appreciate it. It takes 2 seconds and it's a massive help. So show your support and make sure you smash the like button, whether you're watching live or watching after it's aired. Hit that like button, make sure you get it done, and thank you for that. And if you're new and you enjoy the content, please make sure that and you subscribe, hit the notification bell icon as well so you don't miss a live. But let's just kind of get into the news, and shout out to Lyle. Lyle is here. How you doing? Hope you're doing well, Lyle. Let's just get straight into the news and let's just start talking about all this stuff. It is international break. So I'm going to start treating these shows a little bit more, less news driven, but we'll start off the show with a little bit of news, and then we'll kind of just do whatever we want. We'll talk about whatever we want. So obviously one of the updates is Kobbie Mainoo, and Kobbie Mainoo, this is the most recent update. This is coming in about like an hour or so ago. There was another update that came about a few hours ago about Kobbie Mainoo. So one of the things that we're getting here is from Sully Talks, saying Kobbie Mainoo is unhappy about his current situation at Manchester United regarding lack of game time and feels he's not being appreciated. If the situation doesn't improve, he will ask for a loan exit this January. He wants to play in the 2026 World Cup. There was also another update coming from Sky Sports earlier this morning, saying that Napoli are maintaining contact with Kobbie Mainoo's entourage, and a loan move is being considered as early as the January transfer window to give him more playing time and continue his development. The Italian club hopes to conclude this deal quickly. We've talked many a times about Kobbie Mainoo and his current situation. Many people obviously quite clearly unhappy that he's not being played as much as they think he should be being played. Basically, it's to go too far because many people believe that he should be starting matches. Now, I'm not necessarily against that. I'm not necessarily in the camp of saying that, like, yeah, I think he should be getting the minutes that he's getting right now. I've been just trying to drive home the point that if the kid can keep his head down and continue working hard, I just truly I believe in the kid. Yeah, I believe in him, and I believe that he has enough talent to break through and become featured more. Now, I don't know. Obviously, that's outside my jurisdiction. It has to go with what Ruben Amorim decides, the coaching staff, how he is going to utilize Kobbie, if he's going to utilize Kobbie, and if he's going to actually give him more minutes or not. So we're going to have to see how this develops. But before we kind of get into a real discussion, let's just hit Joshua Zirkzee real quick, because he's another player. And he's been playing less minutes than Kobbie. He's barely played this season. He played a lot last season. He was quite instrumental for Ruben last season when Ruben needed him. That run into the Europa League final, he was out injured for that, and we did miss him, and many people wanted him. And this update came about a couple hours ago, saying Joshua Zirkzee's frustration with this current situation at Manchester United has reached a point where he's looking for an exit route in January. Zirkzee is deeply frustrated at his situation, and a move in the January transfer window is seen as absolutely crucial if he is to force his way back into the reckoning for the Netherlands World Cup squad next summer. He has been left out of Ronald Koeman's squad for the upcoming qualifiers against Malta and Finland. Shout out to Malta. In that update, didn't know that that was in there until I just read it now, so that's quite funny. I'm sure 98% of the other people that have read this said, what the hell is Malta and what is this? But yeah, listen, honestly, I get the players' frustrations. I actually think that it's quite a pain in the ass. I'm going to be quite real. I think it's a pain in the ass that this whole World Cup thing is going on, because I get it from the player standpoints. I get that they want to play. I get that they want the minutes. And they want to represent their country. And again, we talked about this last time. Listen, you don't get many World Cups, yeah? If you're lucky and you have a good long career, you probably get about 4. And that's if your career goes well. That's if you stay fit and injury free, and you have longevity in your career. That's if you're lucky. You don't really get that many. So to represent your country and play in a World Cup, it's not like it's something that's around every single year. So I get the players and wanting to be in this World Cup and play in this competition. I understand their frustration in the lack of amount of game time that they're getting right now. Unfortunately, this is another one of these situations that we've kind of created ourselves, because United had a chance to have more games, to offer more matches, so we could have been able to use a bigger squad. We messed that up by losing the Europa League final. We also messed it up by finishing in 15th place last season. And we are currently in a situation where, there is just a real lack of games. It's kind of hard to kind of fit everybody in and give everybody the time that they want. Especially somebody like Joshua Zirkzee. I think Kobbie Mainoo, there's a real argument there to be made that, maybe he should be starting, especially because a lot of us disagree with that midfield and we don't like that midfield. And when I say we don't like that midfield specifically, we don't want to see Bruno Fernandes playing in that midfield. And I think many people out there, I certainly hold the opinion that my starting midfield that I would go with if I was in charge and I had the say and I had the power, I would be starting Mainoo and Ugarte next to each other. So clearly Ruben's gone the opposite. He's doing Bruno and Casemiro. I don't know if he's going to be able to dislodge one of them, because I don't think Kobbie is the guy that can play the defensive role, and therefore he's competing with Bruno for that spot. And Bruno is not going to lose his spot. He's not going to get dropped. He plays 90 minutes every match, so I don't think there's a way for him in there. Now, coincidentally enough, the last match that we just played against Sunderland before this international break started, Kobbie Mainoo came on as a substitute and played in the 10, which was a position that Ruben last season said that he felt like Kobbie could play. But I think the reason why that switched is because actually, if we take a second or two to look at Ruben's 10s, they're not specifically central 10s. Yeah, they're not like traditional 10s. They're sort of a flare 10. Yeah, sometimes they go inside, a lot of times they're on the wing. They're not, it's not like, it's not meant for like a De Bruyne. It's not meant for like sort of an Odegaard. Yeah, it's sort of meant for a flair player to a certain extent. So does Kobbie really fit there? And I think that's why maybe that was backtracked a little bit. I also think that's why Bruno isn't playing there either. And I think that's why Bruno was pushed back into the midfield, because I don't think Bruno answers that call for that position for what Ruben wants out of those 10s. And I think that's why he spent, about 120 something million on the 210s position, because I don't think Kobbie necessarily has that flair either for that specific set of instructions to play that sort of position. So Lyle says, I still feel Mainoo is too hasty here. If he did not feature for England at any point, we wouldn't be talking about his loan exit. Well, that's the thing. I don't think I can't really blame the kid for wanting to play in the World Cup. And he's not the only one at this moment in time, because Zirkzee is another one that has now joined in. Yeah. So I get it, and the need for them wanting to play. And also, I mean, we're not playing many matches, yeah? Unless an injury comes up, I don't see him starting. I don't really see him getting the minutes he wants. So I get why he's asking for this. And again, I think it's an unfortunate situation in terms of that. If we won the Europa League, we would have been in Champions League. We would have had more matches. If we didn't play like absolute losers and get kicked out of the Carabao Cup in the first round, we would have had more matches. We would have been able to give them more opportunities, more minutes, more game time. And this is a little bit of our own doing. Plus, just also, it just happens to be the season that, we have less matches, that there is a World Cup coming up. So it's just a bit of unluckiness as well, to a certain extent. And when I say unluckiness, I just mean like, it always just seems like, with United nowadays, it's like, what is the worst possible scenario, or just a shit scenario, and it happens. And this is a shit scenario, because we don't have the matches to kind of provide the minutes. The squad is kind of locked in terms of, if you look at it from Kobbie's standpoint, yeah. And you were in Kobbie's shoes, do you see yourself actually breaking through? Because I kind of don't. I mean, if I'm him and I'm sitting there, again, I kind of rationalize it as, well, Ruben doesn't really rate me as the defensive sort, and has been trying to get me to sort of train and become better in that area. But how long is that going to take? And is it even going to come to fruition? I can't dislodge Bruno, because just everybody in the world and all his teammates and everybody just knows that Bruno is never going to be benched. He's not going to be dropped. He's not going to not play. And he usually plays all 90 minutes. So I don't really have a fair opportunity there. Could I sneak into a 10 position? Maybe. But at the same time, again, you got a guy like Josh who's not getting any minutes. He's barely gotten minutes. Yeah, he missed a preseason, but I mean, Kobbie came on in a 10. Zirkzee didn't come on as a 10. He didn't play the last match. He's barely played. I mean, he's not even getting 10, 15 minutes as of right now. So, and we have lots of players that can play in the 10 position. And it's a bit overcrowded in that spot right now. So I think he is being, it is a bit hasty, but there's a reason for the hastiness. I don't think he's like throwing his toys out the pram because just to do it, just because he's like, I just want to play, or I feel like I deserve to play. I think, him saying that, like, listen, I mean, I don't really have an opportunity to go past what I am right now. Like, I like, the squad is pretty much locked, barring somebody gets injured or something like that, or somebody does something very stupid, like, Bruno missing training, or Bruno telling Amorim to go fuck himself or something like that. Or having a fight with Ruben or something, and he gets dropped or something. I don't really see how he breaks into this. So, I mean, January is going to be quite interesting, I guess, because I don't know how we solve this problem. I mean, the fans want another midfielder, yeah? And it's like, well, there's Kobbie, and you're not going to put Kobbie because really we need sort of a holding midfielder, a mobile one, maybe even sort of a box-to-box kind of guy who does both sides. And we're going to be asking for that in January, and we think we should have got that in the summer, obviously. But then you have somebody like Kobbie, and he's going to be asking for a loan to go. Now, the club, that's a tricky situation because the club, I mean, listen, if he's only getting 20 minutes from now until January, I mean, he's definitely going to ask for it. And if the club say no, it's kind of a tough one, and I think it's going to cause a lot of divisiveness in the fan base because I don't think it's going to be a popular decision. I think many people are going to feel for Mainoo. I think a lot of people feel for Mainoo right now as it is. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to make of it. I think somebody like Zirkzee is a little bit more expendable at the current moment with the options that we have at 10. And even for him, I think with the way that Ruben rates Cunha and he rates Mount and he rates Mbeumo, I mean, that's 3 players in 2 spots. You're already down 1 substitute in terms of trying to get in. And then you could always put Diallo there. And maybe if he wants, he could put Mainoo there, or he could put Zirkzee there. So I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna get the minutes that they want. We might be seeing them go out on loan, but I have a sort of feeling that, let's just say for argument's sake, by the time we get to January, Kobbie's continued on pretty much the same minutes he's gotten, which again, I still think as a young kid that needs to develop his game a little bit more, I think he's getting enough minutes where he can make an impact, take his chances, and really force the manager's hand, yeah? I don't think he's done it yet. I still back him to do it. I think he can do it. But let's just say that, whatever, it just continues on the way it is. I kind of feel like the football club is not going to let him go. And I think if the football club doesn't let him go, I think it's going to cause a bigger problem. I think it's going to cause a bigger issue because I don't think it's not going to go over well with him for sure, but it's not going to go over well with the rest of the fan. It's not going to go over well with the fans. It's not going to go over well with some of the players, I think, as well, because I think they're going to kind of take his side and be like, you know what, that's kind of bullshit that they're doing that to you. It's a little bit messed up because basically, essentially, they're just keeping you here. And you don't really have a path into the team. There's no way for you to actually break in. Now, I think you can make that argument both ways. Because I've argued in the past that he can. I think he can. But that's me. Yeah, that's me. I'm not Ruben. So it might be different for Ruben Amorim, and he's very stubborn, and he's also a guy that it takes quite a bit of time for him to switch certain players and make certain decisions on players. I mean, when he did it, when he was at Sporting, he did something similar where he would stick with the same set of players for quite a good amount of time before actually changing a player or two or removing them from the squad. But that would also come with, once you do get dropped by Ruben, you are out. Like, you are dropped for quite some time. So, it is a bit strange. There's a piece of news here that there was an informal meeting between the club's hierarchy and some players. Both sides are convinced that the team supports Amorim, the response has been positive because apparently the players are fully behind Ruben Amorim and they're backing him. And I think you can pretty much make that argument and say that because that was one of the points that I didn't really hit on for the Red Devil recap after the match versus Sunderland. But I mean, listen, there was some reports coming out saying that, you know, some players, he might have lost some players and players are questioning a lot of things. But I think if it was like how it was in the past for some managers, I think we wouldn't have won that match versus Sunderland. They would have downed tools, and we would have lost. Yeah, if they actually wanted him gone, if they actually gave up on him, if they actually didn't care anymore, I don't think we would have saw the level of effort that we saw in the match. I don't think we would have won that match. I think we would have found a way to lose it. So I do think that the players are still behind Ruben. I think, obviously, I think it's normal, and Ruben said it, I think it's normal, you know, when you are struggling a bit, and when you are losing matches, particularly in a certain way as well, I mean, you're going to have disappointment, you're going to have questions and players questioning themselves, but questioning the manager and questioning the tactics and stuff like that, and that just comes with negative results. And it does really flip around if you start getting some positive results, especially if you could get them consecutively. So yeah, I think the players are still behind Ruben. You know, there's always a couple players that maybe, you know, they're annoyed by him or they're a little bit fed up. I don't think you have to be in a really, really, really good spot to have like 100% support behind you. We're not in that position, so I would think that maybe there are a couple there that are questioning things still, and maybe they've lost a bit of faith in him. But I think the majority, as a whole, overwhelmingly, I think they still support Ruben. I think they're backing him, and I think they're gonna keep trying for him. So I mean, just a little bit more on that. The Manchester United hierarchy is convinced that the team supports Ruben Amorim after positive conversations between players and club bosses. CEO Omar Barada and football director Jason Wilcox also spoke with team members, including captain Bruno Fernandes and the leadership group, which includes Diego Dalot because he's part of that, and are convinced that there is continued support for the Portuguese coach. The conversations were not formal in nature and were not designed to probe the actors about Amorim's future. So I guess just, you know, I don't know, just general discussion. And from that general discussion, I guess they felt like that they're still behind him. I think the proof is in the pudding in terms of what we saw the display against Sunderland before this international break. So Steph's here as well. Shout out Steph. Lyle says, I think we have to find a way to give him more time. As a sub, then 30 minutes plus, or a starter 90 minutes. I'm sure the matches coming up requires tweaks for Amorim. I mean, I just don't know, because I agree with what you're saying, Lyle, and it makes sense. Yeah, the part that I have a problem with, or not a problem with, but the part that I guess I'm puzzled over, or I'm a bit stuck on, is I know Ruben is stubborn, and I know Ruben. My sporting friend told me this, you know, probably last season. He told me, he said, listen, he said, with Ruben, he said he's going to be very stubborn with players. He's going to play, and he told me, he's like, you guys are going to lose your shit, because he knows how we are. He watches United. He's watched United for numerous amounts of years, yeah, and he knows how we are. He said, he's like, you guys, he's like your fan base is going to lose their shit with some of the decisions he does with the players, because he's one of those guys where he takes quite a bit of time to drop a player that many people might think shouldn't be playing or needs to be dropped, and he will continue forward with that, and it takes a bit of time to make the switch. So in this case, I just think he's going to keep going with that midfield, and he's going to keep picking the sort of the same players that he's picking. I just don't know if there really is anything that Kobbie can do because of that. I don't think it's because Kobbie doesn't have the talent or Kobbie is, not good enough in that certain sense. I think it's because Ruben has sort of made up his mind and he's a bit stubborn in that way when it comes to that. And even if it's not working, it's still going to take time. I mean, he's made it quite obvious with his statements as well. I mean, but I think we've gotten a good grasp of how actually stubborn he is. And obviously people have lost their shit because of that. Box is here as well. Shout out, Box. How you doing, buddy? Yeah, we're just talking a little bit about Kobbie and Zirkzee because they're unhappy about the amount of playing time, and apparently, they could be possibly looking for loan moves in January to get the playing time because they want to be in the World Cup, and they're not going to get in the World Cup squad with the amount of minutes that they're getting. Now, obviously, he's barely being played, so I think Zirkzee probably has a bigger claim. And I think his situation's a little bit different to Kobbie as well. I think Zirkzee's a little bit more expendable than Kobbie in terms of Kobbie. You could make an argument to play him in the midfield. You could make an argument to put him as a 10. With Zirkzee, it's just 10, and I think there's less opportunity there for that to happen. But yeah, I mean, I just don't know. Oh, and Grace is here as well. What's up, Grace? I missed you, Grace. Sorry. How you guys doing? So what do you guys think, though? Do you guys think that Kobbie is going to be able to sort of break into the squad more? Or do you think that in January we're going to see him end up going on loan? Or do you think that the club is going to reject it? Because I also have sort of a feeling that I have a strong feeling that we're probably going to get to January and he's not going to be happy with the amount of minutes he's getting, and he's going to ask for another loan move so he can get the minutes. He's not asking for a permanent deal. He doesn't want to permanently leave. He wants to continue on with us. But specifically for this season, he wants to be basically starting so that he can get into the England team and play in the World Cup. And I just think the most likely scenario is probably that he's probably not going to get the amount of minutes that he really wants. He's going to ask for a loan. And I feel like the club is not going to accept it. Because unless we let him go on loan and maybe we pull in another loan to sort of hold his place over, yeah? Or maybe we make a signing in the midfield and we just let him go on loan and we go with that sort of 4. Because really, for this season, we only actually need 4 midfielders, yeah? In terms of depth, because of the amount of games we're playing. And I think 4 is enough cover. So, Gray says, why does Amorim deserve another midfielder in January if he does not use the current lot? Well, I think the other midfielder would be the upgrade specifically to Casemiro, and the replacement for Casemiro, because this is his last season, and this is it. And really, there's no future in Casemiro. I mean, we're using him because it's what we got, and we couldn't get rid of him, and also we didn't actually go and get the other midfielders. So if you're doing, my argument to that, Grace, would be if you're doing proper, I guess, squad planning, and you're doing proper things as a football club, if the opportunity arises to get the midfield target, which we all felt like and we all said that we should have gotten in the summer, if you can get him in January, you go and do it. And specifically, it would be for Casemiro's position. And you kind of do the transition then. I mean, whoever it is, because I don't know who it'll be. I mean, many people will say Baleba, but I don't think that would happen. But if they go in a different direction, they get a different player, and it's not Baleba. You bring him in. Cass is still here. You do a little bit of the transition and make it smoother, and you slowly phase Casemiro out as we get closer to the end of the season, you get the new guy ready for next season. Kind of like how we did a little bit to Dorgu, but I mean, Dorgu kind of went straight in because we needed him, yeah? So, Fox says, the thing is, Mainoo hasn't been called up since 12 months ago for England, so he wasn't picked for England previously based on form and not on game time. That is true. That is true. That is true. But he sort of lost his spot around that time, yeah? I mean, when Ruben came in, he sort of lost his spot from that time. Because prior to Ruben, I mean, he was starting every match, yeah? And he was playing a lot under Ten Hag. I don't remember exactly. I don't remember exactly, like, you know, when it was that Kobbie started becoming more of a substitute than a starter. But I mean, since Ruben has come in, I mean, certainly when you compare Ruben's time to Ten Hag's time, I mean, Ten Hag was basically starting Kobbie like almost every match. I mean, those couple of seasons, you know, and he did have 1 or 2 injuries in those seasons as well, in the past season and a half. So, Grace says just wait till the summer and get Wharton. Well, I think that's what they should do if their target, if they can't get their target, Grace. If they, like, you know, if the target is Wharton or Baleba or something, and they can't get it, and they can't do it in January, then they should wait till the summer, because they shouldn't be doing panic buys in January, even though we kind of need the position. But I'm saying, you know, if there is a way, or if there's a possibility or something, you do a deal like Wharton or Baleba or whoever else, you know, you fancy, then we should be going for it. We should do it, because I think it's just it's a good move. It's one less deal you got to do in the summer, but it's got to be the guy that, you know, we need. It's got to be the guy that fits. Steph says, Mbuemo, Maz, Ahmad off the AFCON in January. There's the opportunity. Oh, yeah, there's AFCON. Okay, yeah, very good point, Steph. Very good. See, I didn't even have a clue. I totally forgot. Totally forgot about AFCON. So, well, that kind of sucks as well. I mean, we're losing Mbuemo and Ahmad. Well, that's shit. But to be fair, I mean, yeah, I mean, Mbuemo, that's one less player, but maybe, you know, I don't know. I don't know where he wants. I still don't know where he actually wants to use Kobbie. I'm a bit confused. I'm a bit confused, because he says one thing in the press conference, that he's fighting with Bruno for the position, and then he subs him on as a 10 in the last game. I think maybe he did it to get him some minutes because he wanted to keep Bruno on the pitch. I don't know. So I don't know. But I don't know. I don't know. Steph says last season Maguire played more for England than United at one stage. Well, they love Maguire, yeah. But Maguire's not in there either, right? So Fox says I'd reject any moves for Mainoo. We have a contract, so we have no risk of losing him on a free or anything. He will get game time and develop, so I have no worries. By the way, when is his actual contract up? Because weren't we, unless I missed it, weren't we negotiating to give him a new contract? And as far as I know, we did not come to an agreement on a new contract. Yeah, so when is his contract up? Because it's got to be like 2 or 3 years, isn't it? Fox says, I think Eric Ten Hag overplayed Mainoo and Garnacho, to be fair. I think he did too, to a certain extent. The problem with that is, Box, is that once you give... It's like, once you give somebody a lot, right? And maybe you gave him too much, but when you bring it back down to a level of, you would say, maybe normalcy, they see it as very little, yeah? So I think that's part of the dilemma, is that he got a taste of being the starter and constantly being involved. And I think he was delighted with that and he was excited. Why wouldn't you be? Um, but now it's kind of very backwards in that sense, yeah? And it's kind of like, well, I was playing all the time and now I'm barely playing. And also, I think that just the biggest overlying factor is probably just the World Cup. I think, like Lyle said in the beginning of the show, if there wasn't this World Cup thing going on, I don't think Mainoo would be he wouldn't be pushing for a loan. I think he would still be like, I want to start and I want more minutes, which is just normalcy for every football player that actually gives a shit. But this whole World Cup thing is obviously causing or making it a bigger problem than it probably is. Gray says we don't need to worry about Maz and Ahmad. We have the world's cutest Portuguese right wing back. Lyle says Mainoo has 2 years left with an option for 1 year. All right. So in that sense, we're covered. I was getting a bit worried because when they say that they want a contract extension, I was kind of thinking like, that's been going on for a year and we haven't got, or a little bit over a year, and we haven't gotten it done. And I was like, how much time is left on that anyway? Because what we don't want is a situation where he kind of just goes, yeah, I'm fed up with this club. And I'll just hold out for my contract to expire. But we have plenty of time to fix it and work it out and, for things to change and situations to change. So that's all right. So boxes in 24-25 season under Amorim only. Mainoo had roughly 17 starts and 11 sub appearances. That's 28 appearances in total. Yeah. And that's with the amount of games we were playing, right? Because we were playing three matches a week, pretty much. So if you adjust it for the lack of matches that we have now, I mean, it plays out as to why he's not getting the time. He's not getting the time. Unfortunately, he's had to take a bit of a back seat. But again, I still make the argument that, like, listen, if Ruben didn't want him and if Ruben doesn't like him, or Ruben doesn't really rate him, I mean, he wouldn't be giving Kobbie any minutes, or he'd barely be getting minutes. He's still getting a good 20 or odd minutes, pretty much in almost every match except for like 1 or 2 that we've played so far, and it's still very very early on in the season. I think there's a lot of time. I think this is something that we just gotta wait and see how it plays out until we kind of get there. Yeah, like maybe around December. We do October, we do November, we get to around maybe mid-December. We'll probably know the answer by then, yeah, on how these things, how it's gone. Why can't you put Lyle in timeout? I think it's because Lyle is also a moderator. I don't think moderators can time out other moderators. I think. I'm not sure. Gray says, that's the problem. We played with the back 3 over 3 midfielders, so one midfielder was always going to miss out. Well, that is another sort of circumstance, yeah, that plays into this. I mean, that is a good point. It is a bit of a problem that's also created with the system and the formation that we play. The lack of games that we got, the amount of players that we have for each position. We have again, this situation has been pretty much created by us. I mean, if we won the Europa League, we probably wouldn't have this situation. We'd probably have enough games to play everybody and give everybody all the minutes that they need. I don't think, I think Mainoo would be playing more. I think Zirkzee would be playing more. They'd be getting more minutes. And I don't think they'd be asking for loans. We fucked that up. That's on us. We also finished 15th. That's on us. And then there just happens to be a World Cup in the same season that we don't have the matches. So Fox says this season it's 1 start and 5 sub appearances, but he's 20. Players have ups and downs in form and periods where they have to work their way back into the side. And I get that, and I think that's a normal circumstance argument. But I think, again, you could make an argument. Me knowing Ruben, he's not going to change this set of players that he's decided that he's going to go with, unless it's going. I mean, some people might say it's already been going quite bad, but he's very stubborn. He won't change it for a long time. So, if you kind of try to look at it from the player's side, again, it's a bit locked in that I think the argument that he's sort of making that, like, I can show up to practice, training, whatever you want to call it, and I can put in the work and I can take opportunities on the pitch, but he's not gonna take Bruno out. I can't get into that spot. And he doesn't really rate me as a defensive midfielder, and I need to improve my game in that. And how long is that gonna take? And is that even gonna work? There's no guarantee that he develops the qualities to do that job that obviously Casemiro does, because he's more of the defensive player. And on top of that, I mean, there is Ugarte, who you would say is essentially Casemiro's backup. And then, I mean, the way he rates Mount and the way he rates Mbeumo and Cunha, you're not going to get the opportunity until what? Mbeumo goes to AFCON in January? So, in a normal circumstance, if it was just purely he's out of form and it's purely because he's young and he needs to develop a little bit more, but I just think that with Ruben, he's made his decision on that this is my starting squad, and once he makes his decision on this is my starting squad, for him to change the starting squad, he takes a very long time. Because he did it at Sporting, so I just know that it's just not one that's going to happen. 5 minutes of substitute cameo doesn't really count as an appearance. Well, yeah, I mean, I think there was like 2 matches that happened in. I mean, the past couple matches, I mean, he's got at least 15-20 minutes, so he does get paid for it. I guess Box makes a good point there. Bring back the Barclays Premier League. Is it just the English Premier League now? What is this? Oh, I didn't even know you could do that. Anyway, let's jump to a couple other things. Yeah. So one of the things, obviously, we talked about this on this channel quite a bit, because there's been a little bit of updates, but there was one update about Harry Maguire. And this come from Alex Crook, saying that Harry Maguire wants to stay at Manchester United, but is likely to have to take a hefty pay cut in order to do so. We've talked about this quite a lot, actually. Maguire's Man United contract expires at the end of the season, by which time he will have turned 33. However, with the Red Devils minority owners Ineos keen to reduce the wage bill, it is highly unlikely he will be offered the same salary he earns now of around $190,000 a week. Now, I think they could possibly offer him. Listen, I think they like him. I think they consider him a good guy. Yeah. I think they could possibly offer him another deal. I don't know what that would be. I don't know if it would be a 2-year contract or something like that. I mean, I think I would offer him a 2-year contract. It would take him to 35, and I think that's, you call it, the end. And it 100% is not going to be anywhere close to 190,000 a week. I kind of think that Maguire would probably accept it if they offered him. But knowing Ineos, I know that they're going to probably lowball the shit out of him as well. I mean, they're probably going to try and hit him with like about, I wouldn't be surprised, like 90K a week they would probably offer, and cut it right in half. I still feel like Maguire would take it though, because it's like 90K for 2 years and I get to play at United, or I leave, maybe I get a decent, maybe I get more than the 90K they offer by another club because I'm free, but maybe not, because I'm gonna be 33, and you know, how much more years are you gonna play? And plus, at 33, you leave Manchester United. I mean, you're only gonna end up at a small English club. How much money are they actually gonna give you? So I don't know if he I don't know if he would actually reject it if we offered him. I think he would probably take it. I think he would probably take that. So it's just Premier League. Grace says, honestly, United can pay me to sit on the bench. I'd have a good view. Yeah, you could sit next to Delo. Um, Grace says, time out for wanting to give the refrigerator a 2-year deal. Why do you want to keep these players? No, I'm just saying that I'm reading what they're reporting, right? And I'm just saying if the club looks to give him a new deal, it would probably, I mean, it would make sense probably to give him a 2-year, maybe they give him a 1-year deal. On a reduced wage. I mean, 1 or 2. I don't think you wouldn't go any higher than that. I think if they did that, that would be weird and ridiculous. But I think the club is probably more than happy to offer him a new contract of 1 to 2 years with a reduced wage. And I think if they make that offer, I feel like there's a high chance he would probably accept that. Again, if you make that deal and you can cut the wage in half or something like that, and they don't use it as an excuse to not go and buy another player, I don't really care per se if he's there as a squad player, especially if we get back into Europe and we're going to play more matches, because we're going to need a little bit more depth in the squad then, yeah? So we also have to kind of see what happens with Lisandro, because, I mean, he's still not back. He should have been back. He's taken quite a bit of time. He's been a bit injury prone as well. And there's big question marks over him because, I mean, really for Lisandro, if it's one more big injury and his contract is running up as well, I mean, that's the end. So, you know, you'd lose Lisandro. You'd probably lose Maguire. If we're back in Europe, we're probably going to need a couple more players. So I don't know. Either you go out and you buy 2 new center backs, and you got Heaven there as well, or and there's also Luke Shaw, who I don't really want to see him playing left center back anymore. So you know, there's a bit of playing around to do back there, yeah. And I think it comes into, I think all the fans would probably be like, get rid of Maguire, get rid of Shaw, get rid of, you know, whoever. But us knowing this football club, I think it would probably come down to, we could probably get rid of one, and the other ones we're probably going to end up getting stuck with. So it's more of a pick or choose, yeah? I picked the treatment room so I could watch from corporate hospitality. Johnny Hill says, if we keep Maguire and get rid of Mainoo, I'm switching sports. Well, I mean, that's just, I mean, you can't do that, yeah? I don't think we're, I don't think, I don't think the club would sell Mainoo. I don't think they're looking to do that. I really don't. I don't think they're actually looking to do that. I think they do rate Mainoo to a certain extent. And I don't think that they would actually. Now, I think if somebody offered some sort of a substantial money, maybe they would think about it, which I wouldn't like because I don't want to sell Mainoo. But it would have to be like a really sort of high fee, one that you kind of can't ignore for a player, even though they seem to kind of ignore the one for Bruno, which, again, and I would probably make a bigger argument, Johnny. I would say at the end of this summer, and Box isn't going to like this at all, but not at the end of the summer, at the end of the season, I think the bigger thing is if you don't sell Bruno and you sell Mainoo, I think that's a bigger disgrace, yeah? Because you're talking about one for the future and a whole career ahead of him, and one that's coming towards the end of his career. So yeah, I think that would be a bigger disgrace because they kind of play in the similar positions. Maguire has nothing really to kind of do with Kobe, but I do get that. So Ray is here as well. Shout out Ray. Um Amorim picks Delo at left wing back. My boy can play any position. Well, he kind of has to, Grace, though, as well, because I mean, we are at a lack of kind of depth there, yeah? And Dorgu, again, Dorgu can't be starting every game because Dorgu still needs to improve his game. And again, I like Dorgu. He's a work in progress. I think he can become good, like very good and very solid. I think he does well already to get in advanced positions and attack, but obviously his passing and crossing and his decision making at times is still very poor and they need to improve. So he can't get comfortable as I'm going to start every game no matter how I play because there's nobody to replace me. So I think you do kind of have to keep the competition alive. I think for me, Diallo at this moment in time, I think that right wing back spot is his. Because I think he's probably the best performing player we have at wing back. And I think then the others have to fight it out for the other position. And then if Diallo dips in form or whatever, then, you switch it and swing it back around the other way. But when Delo crosses the road, he looks up and down, says Johnny. That's a new one. I like that one. I'm gonna use that for real life. Insult people when I need to. I like that one. I'm gonna save that one. That's a good one, Johnny. To be fair, it's better to look both ways. Delo uses off the pitch signing autographs and dating Grace, but on a limited skills. Delo definitely has his uses. If you know, you know. Grace for manager. Johnny says, if I'm seeing Bruno in the midfield next season, then something has gone wrong in my life. Well, again, I don't know. I would make this argument again. I don't know how many more times somebody might offer us 100 million for Bruno Fernandes. I don't even know if we're going to get it next summer. But if we do get it next summer, I think the club has to take it. I think the club should take it. And I think we should move on. I like Bruno Fernandes very much. I still think with Ruben being here and his system, I actually don't think Bruno actually fits Ruben's system properly, yeah? And that's why you don't see him at the 10 anymore. And I think that's why he spent the money on the 10s. And I think that's why you see Bruno shift back there. Now, he believes that Bruno fits his system playing where he's pushed him to. But I think we would probably all agree and say that no. And that obviously Bruno's best position is a traditional 10, which is not what Ruben actually uses his 10s as. So I think there's a bit of a dilemma there. But I think Ruben doesn't want Bruno to go, and he likes Bruno, and he wants Bruno to stay. But I still hold the opinion of if somebody's offering us 100 million, and he's only going to be another year older, I think we have to take it. I think we have to take it. And when I say take it, I mean we take it and we use it to reshape the squad, not take it and do nothing with it and be Bruno-less, and then be playerless. So, breaking news: 5 continents long replaced by 5 Delos. Oh boy! Imagine we had 5 Delos. Chat. If we had 5 Delos, where would we be? Where would we be if we had 5 Delos in our squad right now? I know the answers. This is why I asked the question. Top 2 says Box. Steph says deep shit. Lyle says League 2. If we had 5 Delos, all I can say is damn, says Grace. Yeah, I think if we had 5 Delos, we'd probably be battling it out with Scunthorpe United. Johnny says if we had 5 Delos, then there's a 0.5% chance they make a successful cross. I love it. I love it. Let's see. I'm grabbing some other news. So let's switch real quick. We got to talk about this. I've kind of refrained from this, but since it's international break, why not? Let's go for it. So obviously, Marcus Rashford. There's an update about Marcus Rashford. I think there was an update about Rasmus Højlund as well. They're both on loan. Marcus Rashford's situation, obviously, he's playing quite well for Barcelona, which not really surprised about. Not really surprised about. I kind of said that. I always said he needed a fresh start. He needed to get out of United. He needed to go somewhere, anywhere, literally anywhere, other than United. And you know, he's gone to Barca. He's playing in La Liga. He's doing quite well for them, and you know, good for him. But the thing is that he has an option to buy. It's not a guarantee to buy. It's an option to buy. The option to buy, I believe, is for like £25 million or something like that. £26.2 million. Now, Barcelona are considering ways to retain Marcus Rashford beyond his current loan from Manchester United without triggering the £26.2 million option to buy clause. If Rashford continues to perform well, the club hopes to keep him in Spain, potentially by negotiating a lower transfer fee or arranging another loan deal. However, it's unclear whether United would be open to renegotiating or agreeing to another temporary move at this stage. Now, I just need to say, and this is coming from @Sport, which is Dario Sport. I believe they are some sort of a Spanish outlet, yeah? Now, I just need to say, right off the bat, why the fuck would we... I can't wrap my head around it. Why would our football club loan him out to you again after he's done so well? And then also, why would we renegotiate to lower the fee if he's doing so well for you and you want him and you actually really want him? When in fact, we're obviously all going to make the argument of, fuck the 26.2 million, give us more money because he's doing well for you and he's a good player. And you should probably be paying more than 26.2 million. And because it's not an obligation to buy, we can absolutely be like, no, we're not accepting the 26.2 million. If you want him, now you got to pay more. The only thing that probably goes against us in this situation is obviously it's known that he's not wanted and we don't want him, but also, you know, his contract doesn't have a lot of years left on it. There's about, I think, 2, or something like that, or it's 3 going on 2. So, I mean, I'm quite baffled by Barcelona, if this is even real, but because I'm sitting here from a United standpoint, and I'm like, yeah, it's good if we get a permanent deal for him, because I think it's done and there's no way back. And again, I think both of us had to move on. And while it's on a temporary basis right now, I mean, if he's performing the way he's performing, I think we should be getting more money than 26.2 million. I actually always thought that 26.2 million was quite low to begin with. So, you know, I don't really know. Grace says, talk about Ahmad's crossing or Dorgu's crossing, you bunch. Well, listen, all of our crossing is bad, yeah? But I've said it for quite some time. I mean, nobody in our team can seem to cross the ball properly. So, that is true. That is true. I mean, it's not just Delo, right? We'll be fair. We'll be fair. We'll be fair. Boxes, bars are shitheads. Elias says Delo is a senior player, so he is setting the wrong examples. Yeah, but like, what do you guys think about like this whole Rashford thing? I mean, he's doing really good for Barca. He's like literally on fire there. It's the beginning of the season. There's an option to buy for 26.2 million pounds. Barca apparently don't want to pay 26.2 million pounds, and they want to pay less. I mean, are they smoking some type of special? Are they smoking papaya or something? Are they smoking tapas over there in Spain? I don't even know if papaya is the right thing. I think papaya is South American. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about anymore. But yeah, I mean, they're trying to circumvent the 26.2 million and pay less. I like, in what world? In what world do you loan a player and he catches fire for your team and you're glowing about how much you like him and you want him to stay, and you're talking about, yeah, forget the option you gave us. We're going to try and negotiate it lower, or in fact, we'll just ask for another loan. Why would we give you another loan? We gave you a loan because he wasn't playing. And leading up to the loan, he wasn't playing well for us. He was very bad, yeah? But now you've taken him on loan, which is the whole point of the loan, because you didn't want to risk buying him permanently just in case he was actually shit. He's on loan, and he's proving his worth to a certain extent. And now you want to try and get him for less than even the option to buy, which I think is still low. Fox says it's up to Rashford to come to an agreement. Otherwise, next summer, I'd reject any lower bids or loan moves from Barca. Well, can somebody tell me how many years he's got left on his contract after the season? Is it going to be 2? Because that's going to be a problem as well. Give me a second. Because that's the only tricky part, right? Because then we're going to have a standoff. He has 2 after this season. I mean, we're going to have another standoff in a certain extent, because, I mean, I don't think the club should be accepting anything. I think the club should be getting more money than 26.2 million. And then Barca are going to try and weasel their way out of that and get him for less. And, you know, Rashford is going to do this thing again where it's going to be Barca or nothing. So it's quite a difficult situation to kind of negotiate ourselves up from it. Fox says Barca offering like 50 million is an insult. I think it is. I think it's kind of a weasel move, Box. But to play a little bit of devil advocate for them and their side, yeah. I mean, they are maybe probably in a more position of power to a certain extent, where we are essentially getting bent over a barrel because of this. Because 2 years left on his contract, he's not going to accept to go anywhere else. He is still getting paid 300,000 or whatever it is a week. And essentially, I mean, you know, let's just say, like, if Marcus Rashford walks in and says, well, I don't give a shit what team gives you what offer. If it ain't Barcelona, I ain't accepting it. How do you work with that? You know what I mean? How do you come to some sort of an agreement with that? Because we're not really in a position of power then, yeah? And then Barca, so it's going to be like Barca and Rashford teaming up against us, yeah? So it's 2v1. And Barca's going to come with the low offers, and Rashford's going to be like, I don't give a shit if, you know, this team offers you 60 million for me. I'm not going there. I don't want to go there. I only want Barcelona. So either figure out a deal with Barcelona or piss off. And I don't think United don't want him there. and United don't want a player there that's going to be getting paid 300,000 a week, people will say throw him in the reserves. But you're not going to throw a player that's getting paid 300,000 a week in the reserves. So when it comes to this Marcus Rashford situation, it's actually a quite situation. It's quite a shit situation for us specifically. Fox says on principle, I'd refuse to sell, rather lose him for free in 2 years. And I understand that. I just, again, then it's just like, but then you create a whole nother situation of now you have him at the football club. It's kind of like a Sancho 2.0 type of thing where, I mean, you don't want him. You're not going to use him. What are you going to do? He's getting paid 300,000 a week. You're going to throw him in the reserves. Let him rot in the reserves for 2 years. Lose him for free, but you still got to pay him 300,000 a week. Maybe you got to bluff that to force his hand, or to force Barca's hand, and pretend like you're really set on that and you're not going to budge, and maybe get him to budge first and play a little bit of chicken. But that's, let's just be honest. I mean, that whole scenario is a total shit show, yeah? It's a total shit show. Do you really want to be dealing with all of that? So, I mean, I don't really know. And I mean, Grace says he's also on 325 a week, so we're saving 2 years of wages plus a transfer fee too. Well, I mean, that is a fair point. When you put it like that, if you get rid of him for about 26 million plus the 300,000 a week on the last 2 years, that is a substantial amount of more money. And I guess you kind of got to factor that in there. Grace says 31 million in wages in the last 2 years plus what we saved this season. So, I mean, yeah, that does kind of have a big factor in it as well. So, but then, you know what? I'll bring it to the point, Grace, that I will say, that's fine. You know what? That seems a little bit, it doesn't seem as bad when you think of it and put it in that way, yeah? But then I would go as far as to say, well, we made an agreement on an option to buy 26.2 million because they weren't sure of how good he was actually going to be for Barcelona, yeah? So I would still hold firm on the fact of there's no way you're getting him for less than this. You know, we're not renegotiating to go lower. The reason why it's at 26.2 million is because his wages are high, and also you were unsure because he was not good for us and he was bad for over a year. So there was a lot of risk if you did that as a permanent deal right away. I mean, you didn't know how he was going to be in La Liga. You didn't know how he was going to be in Barcelona. If you sign him on a permanent deal straight out of the gate, that's a big risk, especially for a club like Barca who's had financial problems. But if he's doing good, I still don't think you have a case to really try and get for less than 26.2 million. I think that price is that price, because they didn't know if he was going to be good or bad, and then the wages are high. Obviously, the wages weren't high. You'd probably be asking for a player like Marcus Rashford for 40 million. Also, let's throw it in there for argument's sake that Marcus Rashford is an academy player. So whatever we do get out of the transfer fee is pure profit as well. And technically, you kind of double that. I don't know how it actually works out, but I just like to double it for argument's sake. So, Ray says no more selling our players for pennies. Well, we got to do better deals, yeah, and we need to get better as a team to stop doing that. So we need to stop. I mean, I think with the players that we've signed so far under Ineos, and I think like the wages we've given them and the prices that we've signed them for, I think that will, in due time, if we continue that, I think it'll reverse course. I think that the problem that we have still currently is basically all of the deals that we were done in the past. I mean, Rashford was a deal that was, you know, the contract was given before Ineos stepped in. Maguire is one from then as well. Casemiro is one as well. Luke Shaw is another one as well. Anthony was one as well. Rasmus was one as well. You know, these players, the deals, these were all done like pre-Ineos. The players that we signed under Ineos, at least for the transfer fees, they are more recoverable. They're less risky in terms of, you know, if it doesn't work out, there's less of a windfall in terms of how much you're actually going to lose, and the wages aren't so high that they're absolutely ridiculous like it is for Marcus Rashford, which is a problem. It is absolutely a problem. So I mean, we're still in this period of we have to deal with these things, and we're going to have to get past this period and this sort of era. And there's quite still a number of players that these contracts are an issue, and they are an issue. And I don't like, you can hold whatever opinion you want of Ineos, yeah, that's fine, but I don't blame Ineos for these things, because I think the contracts that we have and what we did from the past, they were so bad that they're just, how do you rectify it? How do you fix it? How do you get out of it? I think it's difficult for anybody. I think even if you get the most well operated people in football, I think they would still struggle to come to solutions if you give them the circumstances of United in terms of the money aspect, and then also these contracts. Because if we weren't in such a bad sort of financial state, you could probably just make an argument of, yeah, just, you know, get rid of them, cut the contracts, or just sell them for whatever. We take the loss and we move on. But we're not even really in a position to really do that to a certain extent. Like Luke Shaw, you would probably move him on, but who's going to take him? And then you would come down to, well, you know, just cancel his contract and kick him out. But are we in a position to start taking all of these losses? We're not. So, do you see people leaving for free as saving wages? Casemiro is going, but he's out of contract, so we aren't exactly saving anything. Kind of yes and no. It depends on the player, Grace. I think somebody like Casemiro, for the fact that we can't sell him, yeah? I mean, we've kind of been flirting with the idea of trying to sell him for the past, like, two seasons or so. And we just can't. We just can't. Nobody actually really wants him. Nobody wants to give us money for him. And nobody really wants to take on the wages he's on. So we've been stuck with him. So when it comes to, like, Cass, I do kind of look at it in a way of, not that we're necessarily saving money, but it is, you are saving money in a certain extent, because you're just removing that wage is just coming off of the bill. It's no longer an expense you have to continue with. And it's just a situation of, listen, we can't, we were never able to get a transfer fee for him. And it's just gone. Yeah, it's not on the wage bill anymore. So it is, in some sort of a way, kind of saving money. But I get what you mean, because, I mean, his contract's expiring and he's leaving the club. So it's not like if we did Rashford, yeah? Like if we sold him, like the way we're talking about, if we sold him for 26 million, I mean, there's still 2 years left on his contract. We would still have to pay the 300,000. For the next 2 years. So we technically, obviously, yeah, then you're saving 34 million, because we don't have to pay those wages anymore because he's gone. But yeah, if it's somebody like that, like Casemiro, I kind of, it makes me feel a little bit like we're saving money, even though, you know, you have a point there that, I mean, his contract's coming to an end. So it's, you know, the contract is over. I mean, there's nothing left to pay. So it's a bit different. But I would say maybe more somebody like, you know, Luke Shaw. No, with that, I mean, he stayed so far. He's been injury free, yeah. Which makes you kind of think, you know, what's been going on with his injuries all that year. Again, I think Luke probably can't play left back anymore. It's probably too much stress on his body, and I think him playing left center back, which requires him to do a lot less running than bombing up and down the wing 90 minutes constantly, is probably helping him out there in that sense. But yeah, I mean, somebody like Luke, you know, he's another one. How do you get rid of him? I don't think there would really be any interest from any football club. And also, he doesn't need to accept to leave. And also, he's actually playing a role in the squad, so it's a bit different. Ray says 26 million in reserve for 2 years. Again, I think if he was not on 300,000 a week, Ray, I think maybe you could go down that route. But knowing Ineos, knowing Sir Jim, knowing United's circumstances, there's just no way. There's just no way they do that. There's just no way they do that. There's no way they do that. They can't afford to have him being around the club, being in the reserves for 2 years on 300,000 a week. I mean, they would. It's such a bad loss. Yeah, it's such a bad loss. The best option is you sell him, you get rid of those wages, and unfortunately, probably I won't be surprised if we end up actually doing and paying less. Yeah, paying less, getting less. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to the summer and we renegotiate a deal and it's less than 26.2 million, because I think when you take Race's point and you put in the argument that, well, he still gets paid 300,000 a week and we still have to pay that for another 2 years, and that's 34 million. They're definitely going to factor that into the money wise. They're going to look at that, and they're probably going to factor in, and they're probably going to use the excuse of pure profit. So, you know, if it's 20 million, it's pure profit. They're like, that's 40 plus the wages. That's about 73 million. You know, so I think with Rashford, because of our own stupidity from the past of giving him this contract, with this ridiculous high wages, I think we're probably gonna have to take a concession on it. Yeah, I don't think the football club is in such a strong position on this one. And I still hold the belief, obviously, again, for all parties involved, kind of similar to the Sancho thing. I just get it done. Just get it out of the way, I guess. I'd rather it be dealt and solved and resolved quickly than having it turn into some sort of shit show saga that we have to deal with from June till the end of August. I'd rather just not deal with that. I'd rather just cut the losses, I guess, at that point. Grace says, if we aren't in Europe next season, do you think we will have a big summer transfer window since we still have a big squad? It's a good question, Grace. I don't know. I kind of feel like we probably I feel like I'm very uncertain about the financials, but I don't have a good feeling about our financial situation still. And I think that if Manchester United aren't in Europe for back-to-back seasons, I think that's quite damaging financially. I still think that there's obviously more player sales that we got to do, like, you know, making a permanent deal for Marcus Rashford, making a permanent deal for Rasmus Højlund. That might fund us a bit, might allow us to spend a good amount of money. Selling somebody like Marcus, again, I mean, he is an academy player, so pure profit, that would boost us quite a good amount. And then also, I mean, it might depend on the fact of, you know, do we get a big offer for Bruno Fernandes? Do we actually take it? Does he actually go? I think in general, if you don't have any of those things and you're not in Europe, Grace, I would say probably no, because I don't see how we would be able to spend. I think we would be financially stricken. I think it would do quite a lot of damage not being in Europe. And we still have a decently big squad, and we have a bunch of the youngsters on loan as well, and we might have to pull them in and use them as well, which a lot of people would be happy about. But yeah, there's a lot of factors that would go into if we would be able to spend big or not. And I think it would be, obviously, Do we get back into Europe? And then what do we do with some of the players that we have? And how much of an impact does that actually have? Like, not continuing to pay Casemiro's $300,000 a week wage. How much of an impact does that actually have in terms of, does it allow us to spend? How much will it allow us to spend? Does it have a big impact? Does it have an impact at all? You know, what happens with DeMarcus Rashford? Do we sell him? We get the wages out. And anybody else. I mean, the money for Rasmus, maybe we look to move Zirkzee on or something like that. I don't know what's gonna happen, but yeah, I think there's a lot of different factors that are gonna go into that. And we won't really know until, I guess, we're kind of in it. So Ineos will be licking their lips. And Gray says Wharton, Mainoo, Ugarte, and Kone as our midfield options next season. You think Collier is going to get sold as well? Because I heard he's not doing too well on loan. I kept forgetting his name, to be quite honest. But do you think Collier is going to probably get sold as well? Because I heard it so far his loan's not going that well. I know my son Harry Amos is doing quite well. He's playing a lot, and he's having quite the influential impact over there. But it's not really going well for Collier, I heard, from the last thing I heard. I don't know, because I don't really keep up too much, but last thing I saw about Collier is that he's not really playing. And I think he's struggling to break into the squad, which isn't a good indication, because if I'm not mistaken, isn't he 22, 23? And wherever we sent him, I think it was a championship team, you would expect him to be pretty much starting. If you're coming from United, and he featured for us a couple times. So, like Grace is saying, Collier isn't even starting, and that's what I'm saying. So, it's not really going well for him over there. And he might be one that maybe we end up selling. I don't know how much you would get for him, but he would be pure profit because he is he's a youth player. Sheffielder 23rd, almost a shit. Don't disrespect my son, Grace. He's not shit. He's probably the best player. Sheffield might be shit, yeah, but probably the best player they got. Loans manager Johnny needs to look into that. Get him out of that club, says Ray. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And well, that would be Johnny Evans. That would be his job. Yeah. He's got to see what's going on there. Is it just because he's not doing good enough, or you know, sometimes it happens. Clubs loan players in, manager doesn't like them or doesn't really want to use them. They took him as insurance because they can't afford to buy players and they needed maybe depth, and they don't really plan to really use the player. That's not what's happening with Amos. So they wanted Amos. They're using Amos. And I think they need Amos, considering that they're in 23rd. But yeah, they conceded 20 goals. Are you sure he's a left back? Yeah, but conceding 20 goals isn't just only on Amos. There's still a whole other defense, a midfield, a goalkeeper that has an impact on that. But the last thing I saw from Amos was, I think he won player of the match a couple times. Which I guess, you know, if you're in a shit team and they're 23rd, I guess it's not that hard to do. But yeah, I think Amos will be fine. I'm not worried about my son. I think he'll be fine. I think he's gonna get the game experience that he needs. He's gonna play loads. He'll be back next year. And I think we'll be moving forward with him. So I'm not concerned about him. I'm concerned about Collier because where is Collier anyway? I don't know where he is. Oh, by the way, since we're talking about signing players permanently, Amos is the 9th best player by SofaScore rating for Sheffield. West Brom. Collier is at West Brom. Well, that's shit. And what position are they in, Grace? Surely did. I mean, they can't be worse than Sheffield, yeah? Um, but I just saw this pop up as well. They're in 7th. Holy shit. Can we switch them? Can we switch them? Can we send Almas to West Brom? And can we send Collier to Sheffield? Can we switch the loans? And we got to do that in January. Maybe they recall I mean, if it's not going well for Collier, maybe they do recall him, but they're not going to recall him now, yeah, because you can't loan him back out as far as I know. So you'd have to do it in January. So maybe you do that. But real quick, since we're talking about signing players permanently and players that are on loan, I completely forgot, but Andre Onana, Trabzonspor have told Onana's camp they would love to sign him permanently, despite his loan deal being without an option or obligation to buy. And you know what? We were a bit unhappy with all the sort of loans and non-permanent deals, but if things keep going the way they're going, for next summer, we should be set up quite nicely at the very least. I mean, Onana plays good for Trabzonspor, and they like him. Sign him permanently. Good. That's one done and dusted. Rashford would be another one. Rasmus as well, and he's doing well at Napoli. Those are 3 players that we couldn't get people to really buy, and we wanted them out of the club, and now we're kind of looking at potential permanent deals. So Box says Almas will be better than Delo and Dorgu. I hope so. I hope so, because that's what we need. We need young players to come through, and we need them to develop and become better than what we have. And that's kind of where our club has been stuck for quite some time, Box. All jokes aside, that's kind of where we've been stuck for quite some time, is that we've kind of been missing this sort of natural order of upgrades that we need to be doing. Yeah, like, again, for right now, for where we are, I think there are players there that, like, we should be able to do a certain amount with them, and we should be able to reach a certain level. But to eventually get to competing and then ultimately winning Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues and the highest trophies possible, we would then need to go from, getting another player that's 1 to 2 times better than what we currently have in a certain position. We've kind of been stuck in that, yeah. Most of the time we keep buying players and they regress or they don't work out, and the youth kind of hasn't really been aiding in that either. We haven't really had too many that have come out that you say, thank God that we had this kid in the academy. He's come out and it's one less position that we have to worry about. Now people will say Mainoo and Garnacho is gone, but again, I think the Garnacho thing compared to Mainoo, I think it's 2 sort of different situations. Because I don't think Mainoo is gonna do and have the attitude that Garnacho has ever. He doesn't strike me as that kind of guy, and he's only asking for a loan because he wants to play in the World Cup. So, Collier started his first game last game. Did he really? Well, all right. Well, maybe it turns around for him. I mean, that's what I'm saying. So I guess we'll see. How did he do? What was his sofa score rating, Grace, for that match? Ray says we shouldn't compare our players against each other. I mean, we could compare them, but I think we need to do it in a manner of... We could compare them, but I think we need to do it in a manner of, we shouldn't hate one player because we like or we prefer another player in the position, yeah? I mean, at the end of the day, they all play for Manchester United, and at the end of the day, regardless if they're your favorite or not, in reality, we need them to succeed, and we need them to all be the best possible football versions of themselves, and we need them to do as good as possible while they're here, yeah? And while we need them. Like, we need to use them. We need them to You know, like we need Delo to be prime Delo. We need Dorgu to be prime Dorgu. We need Maguire to be prime Maguire. We need everybody to be literally the best version that they possibly can, because they're here now and we're in the season and we're going to be stuck with them. Whether you want them gone or not, or don't like them or whatever, we need them to do it. So I think you can always compare players, because I think, you know, it's the dynamic of the squad. I mean, players are fighting for each other's position even though they're on a team. But I think it's just like, you know, you can't just, and this is what's happened in our club for quite some time. Yeah, like the people hated Pogba because they preferred Bruno, and they kind of were like playing in a similar position. And then there was the people that liked Pogba and preferred Pogba, so they hated Bruno for it. And these people kind of still hate Bruno for it. And there was other examples. I mean, there was the Martial thing, and people that rated Martial, and anybody else that kind of played in Martial's position, they hated him. And I think that's wrong. I don't think you hate the player because he's playing, or he might be doing better than the player you prefer. I mean, I think we need all the players to step up and do well. And I don't really care, to be quite honest, at the end of the day. I mean, if there's a player that I don't really rate, or I might prefer, or I don't prefer over another player, but I mean, if they're playing absolutely brilliant, I'll be happy. I'm going to be happy, because all I want is all the players to play to the most maximum level they possibly could give. So, not my fault these idiots keep rating these shit League 2 players. 6.8, but they lost 3-0 to Millwall. Well, all right. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Don't mention Bruno too much for obvious reason. I think if we say Bruno 3 times, it's kind of like Beetlejuice, yeah? And then Chad will appear from somewhere in your bathroom. If you go in the bathroom mirror and you say Bruno 3 times, when you turn around, Chad's going to be standing there. There was a couple other things that I needed to. So one of the things that, obviously, you know, we were kind of flirting with Semenyo in the summer, and he was kind of on the list, and we never really went for him, but he's still being linked a little bit to United. And apparently Bournemouth believe that Semenyo is now worth north of £75 million, having already scored 6 league goals, second only behind Erling Haaland, and claimed 3 assists this season. So, I mean, well, that's what's going to happen when you have a player that's doing good and he's doing in the Premier League. You could kind of ask for whatever fee you want, especially, you know, when you're Brentford and you're like, we rate him as a top player, and we're not looking to sell him, but obviously clubs are looking to buy him, which we're not there. Yeah, we don't really have that still yet. But we need to get that back in, yeah? Because even for the likes of, you know, a Madrid comes knocking and takes one of our players, yeah, you know, we might lose a great player, but at least we'll get some money for it and we can kind of rebuild. But we can't do that in the position that we've been in for quite some time now. So, there was some other stuff, but this, I'm not organized because I was at work and I didn't really have time to organize this, so I'm kind of just jumping around. So, where is the quotes from Peter Schmeichel? I wanted to do the quotes of Peter Schmeichel on Lemons, because I think you had Schmeichel coming out. I think De Gea said some things or something like that. Here it is. Peter Schmeichel on Sene Lemons. Now, again, if we have some type of a positive, it just might be this guy. It might just be this kid. I liked what I saw against him from Sunderland, but I calmed back down to earth a little bit. Yeah, it's one match, and let's see how it goes for him. Going forward. I really, 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 really hope that this thing is for real, and it goes really well, so that we can stop talking about our goalkeeper and let's focus on other, positions and problems that we need to be focusing on. And we can say we solved one problem. Let's go to the next one. So Peter Schmeichel, talking on Sunny Lemons, says, I think his confidence grew during his debut. You could see from the first cross, Matthijs de Ligt's reaction was fantastic. Defenders want that when they're under the cosh to take some of that pressure off. He's only young. He's hardly played any competitive football. Unfortunately, we've seen over the years great players come into Man United and the pressure is relentless. Then they can't deal with that. It would be silly for someone like me to put more pressure on him. He did well. He's got an international break now. Then his next game, he's got to do the same. Then we see how he develops. All goalkeepers make mistakes. That's when we find out how good people are. And you know what? I really like Peter Schmeichel. I think he's one of the few sort of ex-players and legends of the football club that has a platform that he actually is not very hyperbolic. And I think he's actually very sensible. And I think it just shows in the fact that like he says, like, there's already enough pressure at Manchester United. I don't need to go and put more on him. Me saying anything other than giving him some positivity is only going to make it harder for him. And there's no reason for me to do that. There is no reason for me to do that. Why would I do that? I don't want to do that. I want to see the kid succeed. I want him to be good. I want him to have a good career. There's enough pressure on him as it is. He doesn't need one of the greatest goalkeepers at Manchester United and a legend of the club critiquing his goalkeeping, especially after he had his debut and one appearance for United. But I like that little last bit where he says, all goalkeepers make mistakes, and that's when we find out how good people are. And I think that's just pure facts and class by Schmeichel, because it's true. It's true. I mean, he's not going to be perfect. I don't expect him to be perfect. I expect at some point there's going to be a fuck up or two. And I think that's when you will really find out what he's really made of, yeah? Because when the going gets tough, we'll find out really what he's made of and how he's going to handle that. And that's really what it's about. So he obviously still has to develop a lot more. He still has a lot of improvement, and there's still a lot of games that we're going to have to see him play in different situations. But I think from the confidence he showed, the calmness that he showed, you could tell already there's already some sort of a difference between him and Onana. I felt like Onana never really had the confidence. He never had the calmness that Lemon shows. The same goes for Binder. They never once showed the confidence, the calmness that he showed in his debut. I was saying I couldn't really like bring a word for it, but after the match it was just like there was just something about the way he was like holding himself, the presence that he just showed there, that was just, it just felt different. Yeah. So he made another good point, Schmeichel, and we've seen many players over the years, and the pressure is relentless, and they can't deal with it, and they crumble. So he's no exception in that terms. It could happen to him. I hope it doesn't. And he's got a big match. When we come back from the international break, we're gonna have to play Liverpool, and we're gonna need him to have an exceptional game. He's gonna make some big saves, and I hope he does. I hope he has a big part to play in the Liverpool match. He makes some big saves, does some wonderful goalkeeping. and maybe tilts the scale a little bit in our favors as well. And maybe we win the match because of him, or we get a good result at the very least. Schmeichel also said when I played, and I think I was the same. It was the same for Van der Sar and De Gea. We had to save the team 10 points a season. He said not give them away, and that's what we've gotten used to in the last couple of years. Goalkeepers giving goals and points away. It was nice to see a clean sheet and really good and solid goalkeeping performance from Sonny Lemons. And that's facts as well. I mean, our goalkeepers the past Onana and be in there, but more specifically Onana. I mean, Onana gave away more points than probably any goalkeeper in our history, and we had people like Barthez and shit. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. Rooney also was speaking a little bit, and he was talking about Sesko, and he said, I think he's had, he said, Rooney on Sesko said, I think he's a handful, and he uses his body well. He challenges for balls and makes it easier for Cunha and Mbeumo and Mount. And he does, and I think Sesko, again, I still think the service thing might be a bit of a problem, but I think that there are things to Sesko's game that wasn't in Rasmus's game. And one of them being that he's quite athletic and he's really, really tall. So I think there's high hopes for Benjamin Sesko. And I think that I think we obviously haven't seen the best of him yet, and I think it will come in due time. But even the last match, I think he had a good outing. He looked a lot more involved. He looked a lot more active. Again, I like those sort of long balls to him, and him doing the flick-ons, and I think it does make it easier for sort of Mbeumo, Cunha, and Mount to run on and get the ball. So, yeah. Lyle says, Eric and Chad, I'm out of here. Got to catch some shut-eye early. Work been going nonstop. Y'all take care, babe. Well, you be good. Thank you for being here, Lyle. Get some shut-eye and rest up. And actually, we're going to go as well because I'm going to start doing these shows a lot shorter. I let it run a little bit because I was enjoying the conversation. But, yeah, I'm going to start doing shows a lot shorter. So I'm going to start running them about an hour and a half long. Going forward. One, I got a little bit less time, but also I think the shows, we're doing them too long. I think YouTube's taking it against us in that sort of sense. So I'm going to be experimenting a little bit. So yeah. The next stream we're going to do will be on Friday. We'll do Friday freestyle. Unless something major breaks. Or it's a big news show. But so yeah, just look out for the Friday freestyle. It's probably going to be a late one like this one around 9 p.m. UK time. So look out for that. Hit the like button on your way out if you didn't hit the like button. If you did hit the like button, greatly appreciated. Shout out to all the chat members. Shout out to everybody that got involved in the chat. Ray, Johnny Hill, Steph, Grace, Lyle Box. Shout out to all of you. And everybody take care, be good, have a good one. We'll see each other on Friday. Enjoy the rest of your week, stay safe, and do some fun activities and enjoy yourselves, yeah? But other than that, I'll see you guys on Friday. Be good. I'll try and get involved in the Discord a little bit as well. And have some chats in there while we're not live for the next couple days. So everybody be good, take care. We'll see you later. And have a good night.